Well, Oshodi, this is a very interesting question. 10 years ago, I would have told you simply that focus on unit profitability. And what do we mean by that? I'd say for anything you're doing, if you take a unit of it, if you're selling boxes, you take one box and you look at the cost of delivering a box to somebody, and you should work out what is your profit margin based on selling one box. But today,
with inflation,
and also with the onslaught of technology, people have come to understand that sometimes you can make revenue and be an attractive business. Because they will quote the famous Amazon or Uber and say how they were running at a loss, but they were making high revenues. But if you want to build your capacity true in a sustainable way, you must always look at the bottom line, and that's your profit. Because even the investors that come to your business are interested at the end of the day in making a profit.
Now, can businesses prioritize profit without sacrificing innovation and expansion? Because, as businesses, we want to expand, we want to innovate, we want the new thing to happen to our business, but then the numbers are not numbering.
So it's very interesting. When I saw revenue versus profit, I wanted to say the winner is cash. And this is because if your cash flows are strong, then you are able to build this capacity for innovation, for R&D. Or in today's market, if you have strong equity in your business where you have enough, again, cash to put into your business, friends and family, personal savings, or outside investors, then you can drive innovation. But then there's a lot of lip service going to innovation, because innovation is not driven by the advancement of technology, but is driven by the advancement of the needs of your clients in the space you're operating, and what is going to be a game changer in that space as they grow. And if you don't grow ahead of your customers, then you are going to find yourself lacking behind. And there's always the place where you have to reinvest in your business. And this is where a strong cash flow helps you.
So, cash. Now we've brought in the third one, cash, revenue, profit. Cash is king.
Cash is king. In Yoruba, we say Obalowo.
But that Oba is not.
Igwe.
But it's not. But when the cash is not consistent, when the cash is not consistent, what do you now do? How do you now bring in the likes of the investors and the friends?
Generating cash. Revenue is sales. Now, sometimes you can book sales and receive the cash later. But the important thing is to have a pipeline, or to have a view of money coming into your business as your business grows. Whether it's 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, but you're able to plan and arrange these inflows, and then you begin to match them against the outflows which you're spending on innovation, on salary and expenses, and on expansion, which is maybe acquiring more goods or looking out for new market opportunities.
Now, being a management expert for 2 decades plus, what do you think about the Nigerian business terrain?
You make me sound like an old man.
No. But 2 decades is not beans.
But the Nigerian terrain is an interesting terrain.
They always say so.
And yes, and the reason why we say so is because we found out that there's what we call the opportunistic moment.
Okay.
Where one policy can make you a success overnight. And I'll make an example of a very simple one. For those of us who are a little bit older, we do remember when safety was an issue and road safety came out and said all Okada riders, all motorbike riders, for those who don't understand my
must have
helmets. And at the time this policy was being made, I actually knew a few people who had many containers at the port already with helmets
coming in.
And this was a hit. Now today, who is enforcing that?
No, we still have bikes moving around.
We have bikes moving around and nobody's wearing helmets. But at that moment, a few people
made money.
Cashed in. Let's use the right word.
They
cashed in.
And
so you find that in a terrain like Nigeria, there is what is predictable is that there is an unpredictable opportunity. So we thrive on that. And so what we want is to sustain ourselves in business until that moment. And then it clicks.
Until that moment. But then we have to wait. And waiting is hard.
Yes, it is. And that's why we always tell business owners, mind your business.
Mind the business that pays you.
Mind the business that pays you. Anybody who, and I say this to all entrepreneurs with all respect, I mean, in whichever field you are in, whether you're a vulcanizer, you're a shop owner, you're a tech founder, or you're even, in the business of just fashion, everything you do, there is a cost to doing it. If you are able to track these costs effectively, know how much it costs you to deliver the value, and focus on value creation, then you will always come out on top, and you always be in a way that you are sustainably able to run your business until the moment of your breakthrough, or as they say, when your destiny helper comes.
When you blow.
Or when you blow. Or you hammer.
Because it's sometimes tough even when you don't have revenue and you don't even have profit, and then the cash is trickling in.
No, so you see, there's a contradiction there.
Okay.
If you don't have revenue, then you can't have cash. And if you don't have cash,
you
are burning equity. You are burning the money that you either saved to invest in your business or other people gave you. And if you are doing this and you don't have a line of sight on where that inflow is going to come, at some point you have to ask yourself some serious questions. Am I in the right business? Or am I doing this business in the right way? Or is there a cost that I can manage that will bring me to a point where I can begin to anticipate profit? At the end of the day, cash flow is good because it means you are selling or you are making some inflows or you're getting money for your services. You are creating value. Now, what you need to focus is, how do I become more efficient so that I am spending less to create that value and getting more from the people I provide the value to?
Wow. The signals on 91.3, we have Anthony Amodu, and we're discussing revenue profit. Don't cut off my head yet. If you have questions, WhatsApp us 0809 234 5913. Or you can call us to ask questions or comments. Signals Marketplace will continue next week Saturday. 0704 700 8913 or 0704 700 9913. Now, across different sectors, across different industries, when a business is recurring loss, what should they do? Because most times there are days where there is so much loss and there's sometimes recurring loss. What do we do at that point?
So the first thing I always tell business owners is try to, where possible, so we have to categorize it. For the MSMEs, obviously they can't afford to hire expensive accountants and other people like that. But, basic arithmetic has never failed.
Okay.
If 1 + 1 does not add up to 2, then you have a problem. If 1 + 2 is not 3, then you have a problem. If 3 - 1 is not 2, you have a problem. Take time to go into the basics of your costing, because you must find out where is the loss happening. Sometimes we have losses because people are trying to enter the market, gain market share, or get customers to patronize them. And usually this is because they already have a service that they've already invested in. And all they're now trying to do is take advantage of it and build cash. So, for example, imagine I've set up a telecommunications company. I've already bought a mast. Now, at this point, I can afford to take a loss in my operations to get people to come onto the service. Now, the only challenge you will have is when you decide to increase it to the regular price, some will go, except you are creating exceptional value for them. At this point, they're able to see it. And so we still come back to the same thing. If you are making losses, you need to go and check your books, check your accounts. 1 + 1 has to be 2.
1 + 1 has to be 2. With different sectors that you work in, which sector has had the toughest time balancing revenue and profit? You had energy, you had finance, you had tech.
You are trying to indict me.
No, I'm not. No, you know why? No, we need not indict you, but we need you to share with us the experiences across board, because you are the one with the decades of experience. And for every day, there are a lot of businesses growing up. You've heard different people calling to sell their businesses, and they're in a terrain where sometimes the policies will favor you, other times the policies will not favor you. How then do we now balance both?
So, I mean, so I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. First part, let's talk about the people who are trying to do things and balancing of policies.
Yes.
Government always has a role to play, because one policy can change the fortune of so many of people in different sectors. Like I mentioned with the helmet thing,
yeah.
Right? So government, sometimes all they have to do is make the right decisions. They don't even have to spend any capital, and they can create the opportunity or the environment for profitability and for business growth and opportunities. Now, to the first half of the question, yes, different sectors. I'd say one of the most challenging ones, it will be the technology sector, right?
The AI sector.
Which, with caveat, I'm involved in currently again. And the technology sector is a double-edged sword, because it's infrastructure, and you need infrastructure for growth. So imagine if MTN, Globalcom, Econet, and all the guys who came in were not here. We probably can't even run this show the way we're running. Right? Now, were those companies profitable in their first couple of years? No. Because they, like building a solid foundation for a house, they went deep with the right investment. And so for the technology guys, it's challenging. The next sector that comes after that will be the energy sector, right? Because in my days in banking, I was also an energy banker. And I can tell you that there is so much investment that goes into the discovery for carbons that at the end of the day, you're trying to find oil or gas. You spend so much, and there's still that risk that you might not get anything out. And you find companies carrying over a lot of losses for a while. But once they're able to find the right spot, or they're able to get to a threshold where they've created the right kind of value for the right volume of customers, in the case of telcos and technology companies, you will find out that you begin to now see profitability, and it becomes all operational efficiency after that.
Okay. Hello, good morning. We have a call.
Good morning, lady and gentlemen.
Okay. Go ahead. You don't know where you're calling us from.
My name is Adewunmi.
Okay.
Calling from Document.
Go ahead, please. Question or comment?
I do have a question.
He's listening.
I'm not letting it.
Go ahead, please.
My question is this. You try to make there are distinctions between the difference between hello?
We can hear you.
Accounting cost and the economic cost, and the difference that you will not realize and you will explain it. My question is, the basis of the economy that is based on exchange rate and on the informal and informal sector, whereby an economy has to base solely on the power of the currency as the exchange also of foreign currencies. How will the business be able to survive in an environment
saying is, how do we base our business on foreign currency versus Nigerian currency? When the dollar increases, if I get you correctly, when the dollar increases, everything increases. Why are we basing our businesses on foreign currency? And that's a very good question. Because sometimes you want to buy something and they tell you that I'm like, how does dollar affect this?
How does dollar affect pepper in the market?
Yes.
So this is an age-old question, and the answer is also age-old in the sense that we are largely an import-dependent country. Now, for those of you who are on YouTube, you will notice that I'm not wearing a suit or a tie. I'm wearing native because I've said that I would try to keep my costs local.
And local too is expensive.
I know, because they will tell you that the fabrics are imported.
Yeah.
But so this is where exactly the perfect example I'm going to. The reason why you have that link is because at some point there is an element of what we do locally here that has an import factor, either because you're using a machine that's imported to process it, or you're getting raw materials that's imported to either add into the raw materials you're mixing here, or even if you have everything 100% here, you have expenses by default as a business or as an individual, where you're an MSME, that also are linked to foreign currencies, like you have children, you're buying milk and other provisions, school bags made in China, and other things, even the ones made in Aba. When they make them in Aba, they will still tell you there's a dollar cost because they bought machinery, they bought equipment, spares, and other things from outside the country. So the question is it right to base it on a foreign currency exposure? The answer is, I don't know.
I plead the fifth.
But I can tell you what you can do. You can make changes by trying to substitute anything that you have to spend that is dollar related in a business with a local option where you can reduce the cost drastically. You can move from an exposure in dollar to naira and then try to find those who can even provide those services locally without having too much or limited exposure on the foreign side. Now, this will mean you have to make some sacrifices because the quality might not be the same, but with the right policies and the right determination, eventually we'll pull through.
Okay. This brings me to asking, can't we get stuff done quality-wise in Nigeria? Can we get businesses done quality? Because it's quality, quantity. If somebody's importing, it's quality. But what are we generating here that can be quality?
Well, if you're asking me what are we generating here that can be quality, we'll look at the likes of those who make vehicles, who assemble them here.
Okay.
Today, they've gone miles away from where they started from.
Yeah.
The standard organization tries their best to monitor as many of these businesses as they can. But again, they need to monitor requires resources, and capital needs to be made available. And of course, in an era where we find ourselves with limited capital, government can only do so much. Now, as consumers, we can demand for a higher quality of what we get in terms of service and in terms of goods. And we should also be ready to pay that little premium to get it. The bigger challenge with quality is that a lot of people will rather cut corners and they want 1 + 1 to be 3. And once you think like that, you will always find yourself either settling for less or really putting a large burden on your consumers. And so the challenge, I'd say, is we can, by ourselves, begin to demand for the quality we expect, and then begin to agree that where we are is not perfect, but we can build upon it. And I think that's, for me, the story of the Nigerian entrepreneur is he wants to really deliver things at a global level, but while they are faced with the local challenges, they need the encouragement, they need the support, they need the patronization of us. We need to patronize locally made goods, and this will help eventually build quality. I mean, you and I know, well, Oshodi, I don't want to say, ladies are particular about their ages, but for me, I can say, I remember when I watched Habatogunde's films.
I still met it now. You met Baba Ogunde, I met their children.
And we saw how films, the quality it was at even that time.
It was quality.
And then there was a dip because everybody was trying to just get into the market. And then at some point, the Nollywood industry stood up and said, we won't stand for this anymore. Sometimes that's all it just takes. A group of people to say, we are determined to make things work. The same thing with the music industry, P-Man and the rest of them.
The signals are 91.3. Revenue versus profit. Can a business be generating high revenue and still be failing?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, this is a common challenge in today's business world because most people talk about the top line or the sales figures. They tell you how many people are using the product. But what we fail to always tell you is what is the pathway to profitability. And unfortunately, just because you're generating high cash flow, at the unit level, if it's not profitable, the truth is that you will not be able to sustain yourself. And I'm going to say something here, because we're always quick to call Amazon. But if you really go through the numbers with Amazon, it wasn't as if they were not making a gross profit. They were just not declaring profits because they were reinvesting in innovation, in technology to build their business because there was a clear path that they had defined to profit. So the question is, what is your clear path to profit? Have you defined it? And are you now reinvesting what should be your profit margin, or at least a portion of your gross profit, back into your business to now grow your market or expand your ability to deliver better value at a more efficient cost?
Now, this brings me to a lot of times, a lot of companies in Nigeria will declare profit, and you're wondering, profit, we are not seeing value.
So wait now, that question is too open. You have to come closer because value for who?
Value for Nigerians. So let's take a bank for example. A bank is declaring profit.
Okay, yes, a bank is declaring profit.
A bank is declaring profit, but we, the consumers and customers, are not satisfied with their services, and we're wondering, so where's our money going to? Because they say customer is king, and then yet you're declaring profit, and then we're fighting, we're not happy, and then the rest of it. I'm very question on me.
You want to deal with me today. You know that these are my customers, so I have to be careful here. So I'm walking a tightrope. But for the sake of the Nigerians that are listening.
Yes.
And because you mentioned bank, all I'll just say is that in Nigeria today, specific example of banking is because we are underbanked. Even as many banks as it appears, and fintechs that we appear to have, we don't have 100% financial inclusion. And this is also one of the areas I've been passionate about.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, it means that there are more people that will require the service. And so sometimes there's a pricing mechanism that allows the providers of these financial services to take certain revenues for the services they provide. Now, whether you're getting value for it or not will be determined by which institution you're dealing with and what your expectations of them were. However, the shareholders of such organizations will receive dividends. Now, if those shareholders are complaining that they're not receiving dividends, then that is a different problem. Now, that means that they're not creating value. Now, the other value is, as long as they are able to give you a service that you need and you use. And today, you are not compelled to use a financial institution, but the system is, if you want to exist as a business today, thanks to technology, where everything now is done online, it's digital. COVID accelerated this, and we find ourselves in a world where really, if you can't do it off your phone,
you have to go to physical bank.
And you have to go to physical bank. You're actually going to be losing a whole lot more opportunities than you should have in the marketplace. And so, for the financial institutions, what is value? Value means if I want to transfer money to Oshodi, and I do it in a second, it should go and get to her. And once I don't get that, then I'm not getting value. So, and there are opportunities for Nigerians to complain about different services, because that's what the SON does. There's a consumer protection also agency that also looks at things like this. And Nigerians need to now begin to demand for the value for what they pay for. We have this attitude in Nigeria where when we go somewhere and something doesn't go according to plan, we say, oh, it's just Nigeria. And that is not fair. Because when you do that, you are robbing someone else of receiving better treatment because you didn't stand up for it. And this is what, personally, I don't accept poor treatment in any way. If I pay for a service, I demand my full value for it. And so I think what we should find out is that more Nigerians should demand for their rights, right? Everybody that provides you a service is doing it at the privilege of your providing them that opportunity to serve you. And so you should find yourself demanding for your rights. So you need to know your rights. And that means you need to be educated on what is your rights. And it means you need to understand the tenets or the space within where your rights allow you to operate so that you don't get cheated.
Okay, now if a bank is declaring profit and you are not satisfied by their okay, somebody is saying if a bank is declaring profit and you are not satisfied by their shares, well done. Now you've told us about price, profit, revenue. 1 plus 1 has to plus 1 has to be 2. 3 minus 2 has to be 1.
Yes.
3 minus 1 has to be 2.
Basic arithmetic.
Okay. So after and take for example, wait, first, you said we should demand our rights. Do you know that if you complain of something in a restaurant, for example, and you raise your voice, everybody will look at you as if every Nigerian will look at you as if, oh, this person has started. There's a mindset to it.
There's a mindset to it. But you see, mindsets are driven by culture. The nature of our culture is respect your elders.
And don't talk.
Don't
say anything.
So a number of us were brought up in this, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. And we've lost our voices under this tutelage because we don't know how to speak up. And one of the things that Nigerians tend to avoid is dialogue, because people feel when you have a dialogue, you're arguing. People feel when you're exchanging views on how you feel, it's argumentative. And this is not true. What's your tone? It's just about tone. And when do you know the one that always trips me is when you're talking like I'm talking and they tell you calm down. I'm calm.
Not in the issue of calm down. Should you tell anybody to calm down?
Do you understand? But so people are shy. People, they don't want to be embarrassed. People even see that they might even be seeing that it's because they cannot afford. And they look at it almost from a status perspective. I am bigger than this. Well, I have news for you. Nobody is bigger than value-added service. If you want what you want, then you should demand for it. And if you don't, then it tells us the kind of person you are. It means that you too will find yourself in a position where you will not give the kind of service that your customers expect. So when I see somebody demanding that right, I respect that person, because that person is telling me if I were on that side of the boat, I will give the highest quality. And so I don't expect less.
The part of me saying aluta, but no, it's not aluta, it's continua.
No.
I get you.
I'm a peaceful man.
Now, being in the startup space, what advice would you give to startups that are seeing good revenue growth but struggling with profitability?
They should see me in camera and I'll give them counseling for a fee. But okay. But for you,
see you camera. Just answer me first. That's my question.
That is exactly what I'm telling those companies to do by that statement. That was me saying, take a look at the value you are creating. Now, if you're generating revenues, it means people actually see value in the goods or your services that you're providing. And that is fantastic. Now, the question is, what is the cost of you delivering that value to the clients? How can you manage, moderate, eliminate, or at least substitute those costs for less? And looking at all your options, you must find ways. Can you hire better, get more affordable staff? Maybe you change the model of your hiring to part-time from full-time. Or is it that you are largely import dependent and you start looking for local substitutes? Or is it that there are certain policies where government have put in place that is affecting you, and then you now have to find a way to now form an association, if you are not already a cooperative or an association, to start advocating for that change? Because sometimes the reasons for the inefficiencies that you experience might not be because of your fault. You might be operating in the highest efficient way, but the policies around your industry might not support it. And so you need to advocate and find a way to create a voice where all of you in the same industry can come and address it. But I'd say, look at the numbers, look at your costs, and begin to find ways to fine-tune them. Look at what causes your loss. If you are a shop owner, for instance, are goods expiring and not being sold, for instance? So you are making good revenue, but your staff don't understand the first in, first out principle. Where you have goods expiring, and then you now have to sell goods quickly at a loss because they are expiring in another 1 month. Whereas if they are operated a principle that say first in, first out, you won't have this kind of gaps. So the question is, what are the techniques that you are using in your business, and how can they be revamped? Go global for your research, think local for your implementation.
Okay, my time is almost up. 0809 send us a WhatsApp message, 009-234-5913. We're discussing revenue versus profit. If you're just tuning in, it's Signals on 91.3 with Anthony and Amodu telling us revenue versus profit. Now, what's the biggest mindset shift needed to help business leaders stop chasing vanity revenue? Hi! Sorry, it's not
So it starts with being honest with yourself.
Okay.
In every business, anything you try to do,
yes, you
always know what the cost implication is. If today I say I want to go and buy
and the money.
But let's say you want to buy a suit.
And the money.
And the suit, I have many options. It depends on what my income level is. Okay. If I'm a new guy in employment and I'm earning 200,000 naira, then I shouldn't be looking at suits that they will tell me to buy now and be paying for the next 12 months. I should go and look for Baba Shade, who can cut a suit for me, because today also we're fortunate that there are tailors who can sew. And in fact, this is bespoke in UK, as we call it, but people don't seem to understand. So what you do is that the first thing you need to do, really transform businesses and really transform businesses. And why do we say this? Because when you hear transformation, it's not going to happen overnight. Okay. The mistake, we think tech is the new voodoo, that if we just throw it in the air like our Ifa priest used to do and it lands on the floor, we can tell you exactly how everything is going to work. No, it doesn't work like that. Technology is a process. Tech is a process. And when you understand that it's a process, then it means that it's going to have a beginning, a middle, and then it moves towards an end. Now, what is it going to do in the next 3 years? It's going to transform the way we experience life. How? Today in the financial sector, for instance, there is a lot of fraud, there's a lot of cyber crimes. Technology is fighting this. and bringing this slowly but steadily down. And it is technology that will address that issue. When you talk about process optimization, doing things better, faster, and in a more efficient way at less cost, it is technology that is going to achieve this, because there's only so much humans can do now. And the use of technology will aid, not eliminate, aid the effectiveness of the people in your organization. I mean, today nobody argues when you are sending emails by Outlook rather than printing papers and going from one branch or one location to the other. So the problem is we need to open our minds to adopt the next level of technology so that we can experiment and we can see. And the truth is, will there be challenges along the way? Yes, because every technology suffers the pros and the cons, and there are always challenges. There are ditches, yes, along the way. But here's the point. Today, we've seen what telco did for us. Now imagine what advanced technology can do if we open our minds to allow ourselves to test, fail, understand why we failed, and then succeed from the failure.
Okay, so on this high note, my time is up. I'm going to come back to come and look for you again. Yes, because it's a lot that you're turning out for us. But thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, like I would call you Prince Anthony Amodu, for sharing with us your wealth of knowledge. And till we come your way again next week, Saturday, like we always say on Signals, dream again. Create opportunities for people, because people will be people. Keep creating opportunities.
And stay profitable.
Oh, yeah. One more time.
Stay profitable. 1 + 1 has to be 2.
Have a wonderful week, guys, and God bless. Okay. You came for